It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jürgen Bühler, who is the Executive Director of the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem, also known as ICEJ. The Christian Embassy and millions of followers in dozens of countries are friends of the State of Israel, friends of IDC Herzliya, and friends of the Herzliya Conference. You raise our morale, and God bless you for it, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and dear Professor Reichmann, dear General Gilad, ladies and gentlemen. I understand that it seems strange to many of you that the representative of an evangelical organization is addressing you at the opening session of the Herzliya conference. However, there is a major demographic shift taking place in the world that is so significant that in the years to come, Israel and also this conference cannot ignore it any longer. Over the past decades, the global evangelical community has become the fastest growing stream of faith in the world. And within Christianity, it is on the way to overtake the Catholic faith. And even in the coming decades, it is believed that it even can bypass Islam. The main hothouses of growth of evangelical Christianity, however, are not in Wittenberg or Geneva, London, Dallas or Nashville, but they can be found in places like Manila, Lagos, Beijing or Sao Paulo. This changes rapidly the demographic landscape of Christianity, with the typical Christians today not being anymore white Caucasian Europeans or North Americans, but the majority of evangelicals today are Asians, Africans and Latin Americans. But again, why is this significant for us today? First of all, let us look back at history. This year we celebrate 100 years of Balfour Declaration, 70 years of the United Nations vote for the establishment of the State of Israel. And there it needs to be recognized that many of the strongest supporters of Israel's establishment did so because they have been evangelical Christians. Lord Balfour, as a strong Christian, had a deep belief in the future restoration of the Jewish people back to their biblical homeland, and thus he worked towards the Balfour Declaration. Theodor Herzl was assisted by William Hechler, the chaplain of the British Embassy in Vienna, to meet the Kaiser, unsuccessfully, however, and people like Ort Wingate and Colonel Patterson, they felt as evangelical Christians a historic and prophetic call from the scriptures to stand with the emerging nation of Israel. To understand evangelical belief, we need to go back to another anniversary that we celebrate this year, 500 years of Reformation. While Martin Luther is surely not considered as a close friend of the Jews, his reformation of Christianity, however, had the largest single impact on Christianity in modern history. The translation of the Bible into a common language, coupled with the invention of the printing press, placed within a short decade the Bible into the hand of every Christian in Central Europe. And those Christians discovered very quickly the main beliefs of the Bible. And just a few things I want to mention have been highlighted and discovered or rediscovered by those Christians. Number one, that Christianity came out of Judaism and that the Bible, including our New Testament, was written by Jews and that even Jesus was Jewish. Secondly, that God made an eternal covenant with the Jewish people and that he promised one day to restore them back to their ancient homeland. And thirdly, that the Bible calls upon us as Christians not to persecute the Jewish people, even though they might not share our beliefs, but rather that God said to Abraham, I will bless those who bless thee. And since it is from them, the Jewish people where we receive the scriptures from, we as believers are called to bless them. Therefore, There are certain trademarks of evangelical belief today that I believe indeed are of strategic importance for the state of Israel. Firstly, as stated right now, a strong characteristics of evangelical Christianity, unlike historic Christianity, is their love to Israel and to the Jewish people. And this is indeed a major unifying factor around the world, whether you go to the Amazon River, to the churches in Brazil, to Nigeria, or to the churches in China. Everywhere you will find a strong love for the state of Israel and the Jewish people. As a matter of fact, many of those churches, they don't have a history of anti-Semitism because the churches have been just established there over the recent decades. The second trademark is that the demographic development of those communities has a strategic value for the state of Israel. And this can turn them into strategic allies for Israel because they do represent today significant parts of national populations. If you look to Brazil, we find 26 to 30% of the population being evangelical Christians. Guatemala, 40%, some say even up to 50%. Uganda, 37%, Nigeria, 40%, and even the largest Islamic country in the world, Indonesia, has 12% evangelical Christians, and the largest country in the world, China, owns today more than 100 million evangelical believers. This already does to some degree now and will even more in future years impact elections and can become a political force for Israeli-related matters, both on a national level but also in international bodies like the United Nations. Just a few examples. In Nigeria in 2011, President Goodluck Jonathan decided in an unprecedented move to cast a vote in the United Nations Security Council against the establishment of a Palestinian state due to the pressure of the fast-growing evangelical community in his country. And part of that decision was our chairman in Nigeria, Mr. Mosi Madugba. In Tanzania, a popular movement of evangelical Christians is pushing its own government to strengthen their diplomatic ties with Israel. But even in countries with smaller evangelical communities, they can play an important role, like in Czech Republic just recently. It was the tireless lobbying of the Czech branch of the Christian Embassy that played a central role in the formulation of a Senate resolution just a few weeks ago that named Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel, which is an unheard development in any European nation. Our lobbying efforts years ago in the European Union successfully changed the sick funding practices towards Palestinian entities and played a major role just a few weeks ago to challenge the Norwegian government to reconsider their support of their funding of a women's organization in the PA that was named after a female terrorist. In addition, you can hear tomorrow of some of our activities in Islamic West Africa that brought various governments closer to Israel in recent years and months. And of course, the country that still associates first and foremost with evangelical Christianity is the United States. There, the Trump administration was very clearly voted into office due to the strong turnout of evangelicals at the past election. By the way, the person also who drafted the very first draft of the Jerusalem law in the American Congress is working today at the International Christian Embassy. David Parsons, our senior spokesman, who will also host the round table tomorrow. One last country that I want to highlight today is the country of Iran, probably the most challenging enemy state of Israel. What went unnoticed by most, if not all, international strategists is the growth of the evangelical church in the land of the mullahs. Since the Islamic Revolution started in Tehran in the late 70s, evangelical Christianity grew every single decade by a factor of 10, increasing their numbers from a few thousands in the 1980s to several millions today. If this growth increases, Iran could become the first country in the Middle East that used to be an enemy state that will turn into a friendly nation towards Israel in the coming decades. Our main challenge as Christian leaders is to consolidate this amazing growth around the world and to turn it into a feasible support for the state of Israel. And today at this year's Herzliya conference, there are various Christian leaders from all around the world with us. Becky Brimmer from Bridges for Peace, Jerry Johnson, the president of the NRB in the United States, Pastor Solaris of one of the largest evangelical churches in Latin America, and many others. The Christian Embassy has today offices in more than 90 nations and is reaching more than 170 nations. In a roundtable session tomorrow afternoon, you will have the opportunity to meet senior evangelical leaders from around the world and hear about their activities in Asia, Africa, USA, Latin America, or Europe. We have come to this conference today in closing not to offer our help, because helping we already do since many decades. But I'm here today to challenge you, as you have come to this year's Herzliya conference, to think about Israel's strategic balance, opportunities and risks. I want to challenge you to think about the strategic opportunities that the evangelical world can offer to the state of Israel today and in the future. I believe that together we can discover not only new areas of cooperation for Israel, but we can join hands together in countries around the world to work towards Tikkun Olam. Thank you for listening. May God bless you, and may God bless Medinat Israel.